If you think you know what this is, think again, because this is not the PARALENZ VAQUITA. It is the PARALENZ VAQUITA Generation 2. Let's have a look at it. Hi and welcome back to the Underwater Filmmaking School. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, it's great to see all your smiling faces for this special video today, in which we are gonna be looking at the brand new PARALENZ VAQUITA Generation 2. Now from today, the 18th of August 2022, the PARALENZ VAQUITA Generation 2 will be available for order. And I've been having this camera for about 3 weeks now, and I've done a handful of dives with it. So just to be very clear, this is not a complete review on the PARALENZ VAQUITA Generation 2, but much rather a kind of first impression of it. And I just want to talk to you about what has changed between the VAQUITA first generation and the VAQUITA second generation. So this video will be divided into 3 parts. First of all, in part 1, I will talk about the similarities of what has stayed the same on the VAQUITA second generation compared to the VAQUITA first generation. In the second section, we'll cover what has changed. So we'll go over the things that are different in the VAQUITA second generation compared to the first generation. And in part 3, I will share with you the one thing that I really still miss on the VAQUITA second generation, and that I'm hoping they will include soon, because I think it's gonna make a big difference. So let's get started with what has stayed the same. Now, let's have a look at the form factor. Both these cameras, the VAQUITA first generation and the VAQUITA second generation, they look exactly the same and they are identical. The form factors, the physics, it's exactly the same. If the color wasn't any different, you couldn't tell a difference, and that's why they made it in a different color. The second generation VAQUITA is slightly darker. Don't know if you can really see this here on the image, and it has a different, the wheel here, the selection wheel, this is in a different color as well. We used to have it in the same color as the main shell. Now it is in sort of a, what's that, greenish color. So this is how you can distinguish the Generation 2 from the Generation 1. Other than that, it's pretty much impossible to tell a difference. They look very identical, which is great because it means that all the accessories that you might already have from the VAQUITA first generation, you can still use all these accessories on the VAQUITA second generation. So you don't need to rebuy your macro lens, your third person viewer, your the handle, all that sort of stuff works. It will work great with the VAQUITA second generation. What also hasn't changed is the depth rating. The VAQUITA second generation is still rated down to 350 meters. Again, not that probably any of us will go that deep, but it's good to know that it really is built in a very solid way and that you don't need to have any fear of flooding that camera at all. The video resolutions have also stayed the same, so we get our 4K up to 60 frames per second, we get our 2.7K also up to 60 frames per second, and our 1080p at up to 240 frames per second. And also the sensor has stayed the same, that hasn't changed compared to what was built into the first generation VAQUITA. Alright, so let's now get to the more interesting part, what has actually changed on the VAQUITA Generation 2 compared to its predecessor. Now the PARALENZ team has been working tirelessly on improving that camera for the past I don't know, year and a half, 2 years, and they've really been listening to the feedback that has been coming out of the community and what users were telling them they need to improve to make the camera even better. Now, the one thing that they've improved is the lens, or that they've changed on the camera. They have integrated a different lens now, and if you look closely at the two lenses, you might see a slight difference from the optics. Now, they've integrated a lens which has a wider field of view. So now you get 150 degrees of field of view on the surface, which equals to about 120 degrees when underwater. Previously, on the Vaquita first generation, we had about 90 degrees of field of view when underwater. So this is quite a significant improvement, I think, which is going to make it possible for us to just capture a wider scene, and it's also going to allow more light to be collected onto the sensor. That's really not a bad thing, I would say, getting more light onto your sensor. What they've also improved with getting that new lens integrated in the camera is that the minimum focusing distance has changed. It used to be around 50 centimeters on the Vaquita Generation 1. Now they've changed this to about 25 centimeters, which is fantastic. Thank you so much, PARALENZ team, for doing this, because this was one of the biggest and most heard complaints from the PARALENZ community, that people were saying they can't focus on anything that is closer than 50 centimeters to their lens, and that could be quite annoying at times. Now you can go up to about 25 centimeters to your object and it will still be in focus. And from what I've experienced on those first couple dives that I was able to do with the Generation 2 already, it really works. You can get closer to stuff, to your objects, and they will still be in focus, and that's great. So thank you very much, Vaquita, for making this change and integrating a wider lens and a closer minimal focusing distance. What they've also changed and what they've also been working on is their DCC, their very unique dynamic color correction, which takes care of adjusting white balance for you as you go through your dive. It has already been fairly good, in my opinion, in blue water, in ocean water. Now they've worked more on the algorithm. They've obviously got more data that they were able to feed into the algorithm, and they've improved it, they say, even a little more. But for me, the biggest improvement is that now it also works in lake water. Before, it wasn't really reliably working in lake water. It was giving you very odd results, and I wasn't really happy with that, using it here at home in the Lake of Zurich and the other lakes that I dive in regularly here. Now they've changed this. I don't really know how it works completely, but they say that the camera can now sort of notice whether it is in blue or green water and adjusts the DCC accordingly to it automatically. That's great. As I said, I don't really know how it works, but it really seems to work. The footage that I've seen from the first couple dives that I've done here in the Lake of Zurich looks quite nice, and that was just with the DCC on, nothing else, and I'm pretty happy with that. It definitely looks much better than the footage from the Generation 1 of the Vaquita. Having seen this, I was obviously then very curious to see and find out whether or not my LUTs that I created specifically for the Vaquita Generation 1, whether or not they would be working on the Vaquita Generation 2 with the improved DCC. And I was very happy to find out that all of the LUTs work great. Now, you can even use the ocean-based LUTs now, like the ocean blue, the natural, the vibrant LUT. You can use all these LUTs on the Vaquita footage, even when taking the footage in a lake, which is quite surprisingly. Then I tried out the Lake Green LUT that I've created for the Vaquita first generation, specifically to help the DCC overcome the troubles that it had with working properly in a lake. And I found out that this is the only LUT that doesn't work, because the things that I was trying to compensate with that LUT, they're not existent anymore in the Vaquita Generation 2, so the LUT is not really working there. But other than that, all the other 5 LUTs that are inside the LUT pack work perfectly with the Vaquita second generation. I am actually so happy about this fact that these LUTs are still working with the new Vaquita camera that I've decided to introduce a flash sale on my existing LUT pack. And for the next 7 days, you guys can get the LUT pack at a 50% discount. I'll leave the link down to the LUT pack where you can purchase it down in the video description below. And there's also going to be a coupon code which will give you a 50% discount on these LUTs. So whether you're thinking about getting the new Vaquita Generation 2 or you just haven't got the LUT pack yet for your existing Vaquita Generation 1, this is your chance now to get it at a 50% discount. The last thing that PARALENZ has updated or that has changed on the new Vaquita Generation 2 has to do with the app. And if you've seen any of my previous older reviews of PARALENZ cameras, I have always been very harsh on the app, and I have never really liked how their app works and how reliable or non-reliable it has been in the past. Apparently they have changed this quite a bit. They've put a lot of work into this. I can't really say anything from my own experience here yet because I haven't had the time to test it out properly. I will do that in good time, and I will come up with a follow-up video that will just give you a complete review of the new PARALENZ Vaquita Generation 2, including the new features of the app. But what I've been told, new features that are integrated in the app or have been integrated in the app is that you now have a cloud uploader, so you can just plug in your camera to the computer and you can upload your footage onto a cloud-based storage from PARALENZ and then just access it through the app or any other device and work with the footage. That has been in place for quite some time, I think, but they've done some improvements on that, so that can be an interesting option to help you not having to upload the stuff through the Wi-Fi connection onto your phone, which does take a lot of time. And the other thing that I find quite interesting is that they have come up with a auto clipping function. And what it basically does is you can select clips and it will then just select parts of these clips that it finds most interesting based on an algorithm and AI that this program has been programmed with, so that they say it can recognize if there is, for example, a shark going through the image, if there is like a manta ray, a turtle, anything interesting going through your frame. It will recognize it and it will clip that part out and use it in like a highlight reel. Sort of similar to what GoPro does on their app, and I've been using that a lot when skiing in the winter time, and I had my GoPro on my helmet and I was just trying to get some short highlight clips of the day. That was working quite well there. Hopefully this works very similarly well here in the PARALENZ app, and if it does work that well, then I think it's a great feature that they've integrated here. Again, as I said, I will be testing this out in detail in the future, and I'll let you know how well I think this is actually working and whether or not it is a usable tool in the app. And last but not least, the one thing that I was really hoping PARALENZ would include in an update of the Vaquita camera, and they haven't done, is image stabilization. I know this is a topic that we've talked about a lot, and I do think we still need to talk about it because I think it is something that PARALENZ needs to include and finally integrate in the Vaquita cameras. The Vaquita is a fantastic camera. The Vaquita Generation 2 is even better than the Vaquita Generation 1, obviously, with all the additions and the updates that have been integrated in this new camera. But why not integrate an image stabilization into this camera? I can understand that the guys at PARALENZ, they were focusing on getting the DCC better. Still, I think that the image stabilization is just as important, because no matter how stable you are, with having no image stabilization in the camera itself, you will always, pretty much always get a bit of micro jitters unless you're using it on a tripod. But other than that, you're always gonna get a little micro jitters, micro movements in your footage, and that can be quite annoying. I mean, it's easily correctable. You just put it in an editing software, you just do a post-production image stabilization, and it normally works quite well, but you lose some resolution, and it's just an extra step of work that you have to go through, and it kind of defeats the purpose of the camera itself, where you want to be able to share your footage as quickly as possible by just uploading it onto the cloud or onto your phone and just sharing that footage pretty much straight away. So really, PARALENZ, I think that this is the one big thing that you need to work on next, having a working image stabilization on your cameras. And this is the one thing that I was really hoping would come with the next camera update, and which is unfortunately still missing. Nevertheless, summing up my first impressions of the new PARALENZ VAQUITA Generation 2, I do think that this is a great camera, and it has just been made a little better than what the predecessor, the VAQUITA Generation 1, has already been. I think that the wider field of view and the shorter minimal focusing distance are great improvements on the camera itself, and I also love that the DCC now works properly in lake water, in green water as well. So PARALENZ, thank you very much for making the VAQUITA even better with giving us the VAQUITA Generation 2. If you guys want to dive deeper into all the specs and information and details of the new VAQUITA Generation 2, I'll leave a link down in the video description below to the PARALENZ website, where you can read up on everything connected with the new PARALENZ VAQUITA Generation 2. Hopefully this video was useful to you, and I was able to give you a quick rundown on the changes and the improvements that come along with the VAQUITA Generation 2. If this was the case, then as always, please do not forget to hit that like button, and also consider subscribing to the channel so you're not missing out on any future content that will be uploaded here, specifically more content about the new VAQUITA Generation 2. As I said before, as soon as I've had the time to properly test it out, get some more dives done with it, I will be doing a proper full review of the VAQUITA Generation 2, which will be published here on the channel, hopefully very soon. I don't have anything else to say then. Thanks for your time and for watching. Enjoy capturing your underwater adventures, and I will see you in the next video. They really do look alike.